The morning sun felt unusually harsh on Maya's face as she walked down Main Street, clutching a wrinkled piece of paper in her sweaty palm. It was her fifth job application this week, and her heart was already racing before she even reached the store. The vintage clothing boutique looked so pretty from the outside, with its colorful window display and cheerful "Help Wanted" sign hanging on the glass door. Maya had practiced her introduction at least 20 times in the mirror that morning. She wanted to sound confident and professional, even though her stomach was doing flips. At 17, she desperately needed this job. Her mom worked double shifts at the diner just to keep their small apartment, and Maya wanted to help with the bills. College felt like an impossible dream when they could barely afford groceries. She pushed open the door, and a little bell chimed above her head. The store smelled like lavender and old books. Racks of beautiful vintage dresses lined the walls, and everything looked so delicate and elegant. Maya felt huge and out of place among all the tiny sizes and flowing fabrics. A woman appeared from behind the counter. She had perfectly styled blonde hair and wore a flowing bohemian dress that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. The woman looked Maya up and down, and her smile immediately faded. It was that look Maya knew too well, the one that said she didn't belong. "Hi, I'm here about the job," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. She held out her application. With both hands, hoping they wouldn't shake too much, the woman barely glanced at the paper. "Oh, honey," she said in a tone that was supposed to sound sweet but felt like a slap. "I'm sorry, but we really need someone who fits our brand image. You understand, right? Our customers expect a certain ... look." Maya's face burned with embarrassment. "I'm really good with people," she tried to explain. "And I know a lot about fashion. I could learn quickly about vintage styles." "I'm sure you're very nice," the woman interrupted, already turning away. "But it's just not going to work out. Maybe try the fast food places down the street. They're always hiring." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She mumbled something about understanding and practically ran out of the store. The cheerful bell seemed to mock her as she left, and she could feel the woman watching her through the window, outside. Maya leaned against the brick wall next to the store, trying to catch her breath. This wasn't the first time. The coffee shop had said they needed someone with more energy. The bookstore manager had looked uncomfortable and mumbled about customer service requirements. Even the grocery store had found some excuse about her availability. Even though she'd said she could work any hours they needed, Maya slumped down onto a wooden bench across from the boutique. The tears came before she could stop them, hot and angry and full of all the frustration she'd been holding inside. She wasn't asking for charity. She just wanted a chance to work, to prove herself, to help her family. Why was that so impossible? "No one will ever hire me," she whispered to herself, not caring if anyone heard. "I'm too fat. I'm too ugly. Nobody wants me around." The words felt bitter in her mouth, but they also felt true. Maya had tried so hard to stay positive, to believe that someone would see past her appearance and give her a chance. But every rejection made it harder to hope. Maybe she should just give up and accept that some dreams weren't meant for people. Like her, she pulled out her phone to call her mom, but then stopped. Her mom was probably dealing with difficult customers at the diner right now, working her feet raw to pay their rent. Maya couldn't add her problems to her mom's stress. She'd just have to figure this out on her own. A group of girls from her high school walked by, laughing and carrying shopping bags from expensive stores. Maya recognized them but quickly looked down, hoping they wouldn't notice her crying on a public bench. She didn't need their pity or their whispered comments about the fat girl having a breakdown. The sun was getting hotter, but Maya didn't want to go home yet. She couldn't face her mom's hopeful questions about how the job hunt went. She couldn't pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. So she just sat there, watching people walk by with their normal lives and their normal problems. Most people didn't even glance at her. She felt invisible, which was somehow worse than the stares and judgmental looks. At least when people noticed her, she existed. Sitting alone on that bench, Maya felt like she was disappearing from the world entirely, A businessman in a fancy suit walked past, talking loudly on his phone about some important meeting. A young couple strolled by, holding hands and laughing about something private between them. An older woman struggled with heavy grocery bags, but when Maya started to get up to help, the woman gave her such a suspicious look that Maya sat back down. Even trying to be kind felt impossible when people saw her as a threat or a problem before they saw her as a person. Maya thought about all the things she was good at. She could organize anything, no matter how messy. She remembered every customer's name at places she visited regularly. She could solve problems that stumped other people, and she genuinely cared about making others happy. But none of that seemed to matter when people couldn't see past her size. The worst part was that she'd started to believe them. Maybe she really wasn't good enough. Maybe there was something fundamentally wrong with her that made her unemployable. The voice in her head that used to encourage her to keep trying was getting quieter every day. Replaced by doubt and self-hatred. She watched a mother walk by with her little daughter, pointing out different flowers in the planters along the sidewalk. The little girl was chubby and carefree, spinning in circles and giggling at everything. Maya wondered when that confidence disappeared. When did the world start telling girls like her that they weren't good enough? A delivery truck rumbled past, and Maya caught a glimpse of herself reflected in its shiny side. She saw a girl with sad eyes and slumped shoulders, someone who looked defeated before the fight even started. Was this really who she was becoming? Across the street, she noticed a man in worn jeans and a flannel shirt. He was older, maybe in his 40s, with graying hair and work boots that had seen better days. Something about him seemed different from the other people rushing past. He wasn't checking his phone or hurrying somewhere important. He was just standing there, watching the street with patient eyes. For a moment, Maya wondered if he'd seen what happened at the boutique. The thought made her face burn with fresh embarrassment. The last thing she needed was some stranger feeling sorry for her. She looked away quickly, hoping he'd move along and leave her to her misery, but when she glanced back a few minutes later, he was still there. And now he was looking directly at her, not with judgment or pity, but with something that looked almost like recognition. Like he understood exactly what she was going through. Maya wiped her eyes and tried to pull herself together. She couldn't sit on this bench forever, feeling sorry for herself. Tomorrow she'd have to start the whole humiliating process again, walking into stores and facing rejection after rejection. But right now, she just wanted to be invisible a little longer. She had no idea that the quiet man across the street was about to change everything. Maya was still wiping tears from her cheeks when she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see the man in the flannel shirt walking toward her bench. Her first instinct was to get up and leave. The last thing she wanted was some stranger trying to cheer her up with empty words about how things get better or you just need to believe in yourself. But something about his approach made her stay. He wasn't rushing over with that forced concern people sometimes showed. Instead, he moved slowly, like he was giving her time to decide if she wanted company. When he reached the bench, he didn't immediately sit down or start talking. He just stood there for a moment, looking out at the street. "Mind if I sit?" he asked finally. His voice was rough around the edges, like someone who spent more time outdoors than in conversation. Maya shrugged, not trusting her voice yet. The man settled onto the other end of the bench, leaving plenty of space between them. He didn't stare at her or ask if she was okay. He just sat quietly, watching the same street she'd been staring at. After a few minutes of silence, he spoke. "Again, I saw what happened in there." He nodded toward the boutique. "That wasn't right." Maya's face burned with fresh embarrassment. "You were watching?" Hard not to notice when someone's being treated unfairly. He turned to look at her, and Maya was surprised by his eyes. They were kind but tired, like someone who'd seen too much of the world's cruelty. "Been happening a lot lately?" Maya almost lied. Almost said it was just a bad day and she'd find something else. But something about this stranger made her want to tell the truth. Maybe it was because he didn't seem to be judging her, or maybe she was just too exhausted to pretend anymore. "5th place this week," she admitted. They all have different excuses, but it's always the same thing. I don't fit their image. The man nodded slowly. What kind of work are you looking for? Anything, really. I just need a job. My mom works so hard, and I want to help with bills. Maybe save some money for college. Maya surprised herself by sharing so much with a complete stranger. What would you study? In college, I mean. Maya had never said it out loud before, but the words came. Easier than she expected. Business, maybe? I'm good at organizing things, figuring out systems that work better. I helped my mom reorganize the diner's inventory last year, and they saved tons of money on waste. That's valuable skill, the man said. More valuable than most people realize. Maya glanced at him sideways. Are you just trying to make me feel better? A small smile crossed his weathered face. No, I'm trying to solve a problem. See, I've got a business that's falling apart because I'm terrible at organization. I can build furniture that'll last 100 years, but I can't keep track of invoices or remember to call customers back. Been losing money for months because of it. Maya studied his face, trying to figure out if he was serious. What kind of business? Woodworking. Custom furniture, cabinets, that sort of thing. Got a workshop about 20 minutes up the mountain road. He gestured toward the hills that surrounded their small town. Name's Jack, by the way. Jack Morrison. Maya, she said automatically, then immediately wondered if she should have given a fake name. Her mom had always warned her about talking to strangers. Jack seemed to read her thoughts. Tell you what, Maya, why don't I give you my business card and you can think about it? Maybe talk to your mom first. If you're interested, you can call me tomorrow. He pulled a slightly bent business card from his shirt pocket. It was simple white cardstock with black text, Morrison Woodworks, and a phone number. No fancy logo or design, just basic information. What exactly would I be doing? Maya asked, taking the card. Organizing my disaster of an office, mostly. Returning phone calls, keeping track of orders, maybe helping me figure out this computer thing for marketing. Jack chuckled. I'm old school. Still, write everything down on paper, which works fine until I lose the paper. Maya found herself actually smiling for the first time all day. That does sound like a mess. Oh, it is. Complete disaster. But here's the thing. I pay well for good work. Very well. Triple what most places around here offer? Maya's smile faded. Now she was sure he was just feeling sorry for her. You don't even know if I'm any good at office work. Why would you pay that much? Jack was quiet for a moment, looking out at the street again. When he spoke, his voice was more serious. About 15 years ago, I was a different person. Wore expensive suits, had a corner office in the city, thought I was pretty important, then life knocked me down hard. Lost everything, job, house, family. People I thought were friends disappeared real quick when I wasn't useful to them anymore. Maya listened, surprised by his honesty. I ended up here with nothing but some woodworking tools and a stubborn streak. Had to start over completely? Know what I learned? He looked at her directly. The world's full of people who judge by appearances and miss what really matters. I'm not interested in making that same mistake. But you don't know anything about me, Maya protested. I know you've been job hunting all week and haven't given up. I know you want to help your family. I know you were polite to that woman in the store even when she was being cruel. Jack counted on his fingers. I know you're sitting here crying instead of getting angry and bitter. That tells me plenty about your character. Maya felt something loosening in her chest, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks and could finally exhale. When would I start? Whenever you want. Tomorrow, next week, whatever works for you and your mom. Jack stood up slowly, his knees creaking slightly. But Maya, don't take the job because you feel desperate. Take it because you think you can do good work and earn what I'm paying you. How do you know I won't just mess everything up worse? Jack laughed, a genuine sound that made Maya feel lighter. Honey, I once mixed up 2 orders and delivered a dining room set to someone who ordered a jewelry box. Trust me, you can't make it worse. After Jack left, Maya sat on the bench for another hour, turning his business card over in her hands. Part of her was suspicious. Good things didn't just happen to people like her. There had to be a catch, some hidden expectation or condition she hadn't heard yet, but another part of her, the part that had been quiet for so long, was starting to whisper that maybe this was real. Maybe someone had finally seen past her appearance to the person underneath. Maybe she really did have value that others had been too blind to notice. When Maya finally stood up to walk home, she felt different than she had that morning, not completely confident. That would take time, but hopeful in a way she hadn't been in months. For the first time in her life, someone had offered her not just a job, but respect and fair pay for her skills. She tucked Jack's business card carefully into her wallet, next to the $20 bill her mom had given her for lunch. Tomorrow, she'd have a very interesting conversation with her mom about a mountain man who might just be the answer to their prayers. Maya's mom had been skeptical at first when she heard about Jack's job offer. They spent half the night talking about it at their small kitchen table, her mom asking all the right questions about safety and what exactly this stranger wanted from her daughter. But when Maya showed her the business card and explained how respectfully Jack had treated her, her mom's expression softened. "Just promise me you'll be careful," her mom had said finally, "and call me every few hours, okay?" Now, standing at the bottom of a winding dirt road that led up into the mountains, Maya felt her nerves returning. Jack had given her detailed directions, but she still worried she'd taken a wrong turn somewhere. The morning air was crisp and clean, so different from the exhaust fumes and city noise she was used to. Her mom's old car struggled up the steep incline, engine wheezing with every curve. Maya gripped the steering wheel tighter, hoping they'd make it to the top. After about 10 minutes of climbing, she saw a hand-painted wooden sign that read Morrison Woodworks. With an arrow pointing left, the workshop sat in a clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. It was bigger than Maya had expected, a large wooden building that looked like it had grown naturally from the forest around it. Stacks of lumber were neatly arranged under covered areas, and she could smell sawdust and something else. Cedar, maybe? It was warm and welcoming, like walking into a cabin on a cold day. Jack emerged from the workshop before she'd even turned off the car. He was wearing the same type of work clothes as yesterday, but now Maya could see sawdust in his hair and what looked like wood stain on his hands. He looked more relaxed here, more like he belonged. "Maya, glad you decided to come up." He wiped his hands on a rag before approaching her car. "How was the drive?" "Old Blue make it up the hill okay?" He nodded toward her mom's ancient sedan. "Barely." Maya laughed, surprised by how easy it felt to joke with him. "I think she needs a rest before we try going back down. We'll give her time to cool off. Come on, let me show you around." The inside of the workshop took Maya's breath away. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating workbenches covered with tools she couldn't even name, half finished. Furniture pieces stood like sculptures throughout the space, a dining table with intricate carved legs, a bookshelf that curved like it was growing from the floor, chairs that looked both sturdy and elegant. "Jack, this is incredible," Maya breathed, running her fingers along the smooth surface of a cabinet door. "You made all of this?" "Most of it. Been working with wood since I was about 12. My grandfather taught me." Jack picked up a small wooden box from a nearby bench. "This was supposed to be delivered last week, but I forgot to call the customer." Maya examined the box. It was beautiful, with tiny hinges that moved like silk and wood grain that seemed to flow like water. "How could you forget something like this? It's gorgeous." Jack chuckled, but there was embarrassment in it. "That's the problem. I get so focused on the making that I forget about the selling. Follow me and you'll see what I mean." He led her to a smaller room attached to the main workshop. Maya stopped in the doorway, trying to process what she was seeing. Papers were scattered everywhere. Invoices, receipts, phone messages written on napkins and scraps of wood. An ancient computer sat buried under stacks of folders. 2 phones, one obviously broken, were tangled together with their cords. "This," Jack said with a sweeping gesture, "is why I need help." Maya stepped carefully into the chaos, picking up an invoice that had fallen to the floor. "When was the last time you organized any of this?" "Define organized," Jack said weakly. "Okay, When was the last time you could find something you were looking for in here? That's a much harder question. Maya felt something stirring inside her that she hadn't experienced in months. It wasn't pity for Jack's situation, it was excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge she loved. Looking at this disaster, she could already see solutions, systems, ways to make everything work better. Can I look around? I promise I won't mess anything up worse. Go ahead, I'll be in the workshop if you need me. Maya spent the next hour carefully examining the chaos. She found invoices from 3 years ago mixed with current orders. Customer phone numbers were written on everything from business cards to pieces of sandpaper. There were checks that had never been deposited and bills that were months overdue. But as she dug deeper, Maya began to understand something important about Jack. Despite the organizational disaster, his customer files told a story of someone who truly cared about his work. There were thank you notes from families whose heirloom furniture he'd restored, photos of custom pieces he'd built for special occasions, letters from customers who'd recommended him to friends. You have people who love your work, Maya called. Out to the workshop. What's that? Jack appeared in the doorway, wood shavings in his beard. Your customers. They really love what you do. Look at all these thank you notes. Maya held up a handful of letters. This woman says the rocking chair you made helped her through her cancer treatment. This family says the dining table you built is where their kids do homework every night. Jack's expression grew soft. Yeah, that's the part one love. Making things that matter to people, that become part of their lives. Then why don't you have more customers? With work this good, you should be booked solid. Jack sat down heavily in the room's only chair, which creaked ominously under his weight. Because I'm terrible at the business side. I finish a piece and forget to call the customer. I quote prices off the top of my head and usually charge too little. I've never even tried advertising beyond word of mouth. Maya looked around the chaotic office again, but now she saw possibility instead of disaster. What if I told you this could all be fixed? Not just cleaned up, but actually organized in a way that would help your business grow? I'd say you're either crazy or a miracle worker. Maybe both, Maya grinned. But I have ideas, lots of them. She spent the next hour explaining what she saw. How customer files could be organized by date and project type. How a simple computer system could track orders from initial contact to final delivery. How thank you notes and photos could be used to show potential customers. The quality of Jack's work. Jack listened with growing amazement. You figured all that out just from looking at this mess? It's not really that complicated. You just need systems, ways to keep track of everything automatically so you can focus on what you're good at. And you think you could set up these systems? Maya felt a flutter of uncertainty. I think so. I mean, I've never done it for a real business before, but I reorganized the whole inventory system at my mom's diner, and that worked really well. Jack was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Maya, can I ask you something? And I want an honest answer. Okay. Do you actually want this job? Or are you just taking it because you need the money? Maya considered the question seriously. When she'd walked into the workshop that morning, she'd been nervous and unsure. But looking at Jack's beautiful furniture and then seeing the chaos, that was keeping him from sharing it with more people. That felt like something she could really sink her teeth into. I want it, she said finally. I really want it. This isn't just about filing papers or answering phones. You're talking about helping build something that matters. Jack's face broke into the biggest smile Maya had seen from him yet. Then welcome. To Morrison Woodworks, partner? Partner? Well, if you're going to help me turn this place around, seems like you should get credit for it. As Maya drove back down the mountain that afternoon, her head was spinning with plans and possibilities. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her skills and seen real value. Not just busy work or charity, but genuine partnership. In building something important she couldn't wait to start. 3 weeks into working at Morrison Woodworks, Maya had completely transformed Jack's chaotic office. She'd installed a simple filing system that even Jack could follow, organized customer orders by date and priority, and somehow managed to find over $2,000 in uncashed checks that had been buried under piles of paperwork. I still can't believe you found all that money, Jack said, watching Maya update the customer database she'd created on his ancient computer. I was ready to take out a loan to buy new equipment. Maya looked up from the screen, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. There's probably more. I found 3 orders from last month that you never followed up on. 2 of them are still interested. Jack shook his head in amazement. How do you keep track of all this? It's just organization. Everything has a place, and you put things where they belong. Maya clicked through the files she'd created. See? Customer contacts here, pending orders here, completed projects here. Each file has all the information you need. But Maya had done more than just organize. She'd been studying Jack's work patterns and had some ideas that were making her excited to come to work every morning. Yesterday, she'd convinced him to let her take photos of some of his finished pieces. The results had surprised them both. Jack, you need to see this, Maya called from the office. She'd been working on something all morning and was practically bouncing in her chair. Jack wiped sawdust from his hands and came over to look at the computer screen. Maya had created a simple website using a free template, but it looked professional and clean. Photos of his furniture were arranged in galleries, each piece accompanied by a description that made even his simplest work sound special. Custom. Dining table, handcrafted from reclaimed oak, designed to bring families together for generations. Jack read aloud. Maya, this makes me sound like some kind of artist. You are an artist. That's the problem. You don't see it. Maya clicked to another page. Look at this rocking chair. You told me you made it for a new grandmother, right? That's not just furniture. That's going to rock babies to sleep for years. That's where bedtime stories will be read and lullabies will be sung. Jack stared at the screen, seeing his work through Maya's eyes for the first time. I never thought about it like that. That's because you're focused on the technical stuff, the joints and the finish, and making sure everything is perfect. But customers don't buy furniture. They buy what the furniture will do for their lives. Maya had been researching other furniture makers online during her lunch breaks, studying how they presented their work and what kind of prices they charged. What she'd discovered had shocked her. Jack, I need to ask you something, and please don't get mad. That's never a good way to start a conversation, Jack said, but he was smiling. How much did you charge for that dining set you delivered last week? The one with the matching chairs? Jack thought for a moment. $400 for the table, $100 each for the chairs. So $800 total. Maya pulled up a website on her laptop and turned it toward him. This is a furniture store in the city. Look at their dining sets. Jack's eyes widened as he scrolled through the prices. Sets that weren't nearly as well made as his were selling for $2,000 and $3,000. Some were even more expensive than that. These are mass-produced pieces, Maya explained. Yours are completely custom, handmade. Built to last forever. You should be charging at least 3 times what you're asking. Maya, people around here can't afford those prices. Then maybe we need to reach different people. Maya had been thinking about this for days. What if we marketed to people in the city? People who appreciate handcrafted work and can afford to pay what it's really worth? Jack looked uncomfortable. I don't know anything about marketing to city folks. They're different. Maya sensed there was more to Jack's reluctance than he was saying, but she didn't push. Instead, she showed him the social media accounts she'd been setting up. I started with just posting photos of your work. Look what happened. Maya pulled up the woodworking Instagram account she'd created. In just 2 weeks, it had gained over 500 followers. People are commenting that they want to buy pieces like this. Someone in the city asked if you do custom bookcases. An interior designer wants to know if you'd be interested in working on a restaurant project. Jack scrolled through the comments, amazed. All these people saw my work and shared it with their friends. Look at this one. A woman in the city shared the photo of that jewelry box you made. Her friends are asking where they can order one. Maya had been keeping a list of all the inquiries and potential customers. The interest was far beyond what she'd expected, and she was getting more excited by the day. "There's something else," Maya said, pulling up a spreadsheet she'd been working on. "I calculated what you could make if you raised your prices to market rates and got just a few more orders per month. Jack, you could double your income, maybe triple it." Jack sat down heavily in his chair. "That seems too good to be true." "It's not magic. It's just business." Maya turned back to the computer. "You're already doing the hard part, making incredible furniture. We just need to connect you with people who value that kind of work." Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into learning everything she could about online marketing. She watched YouTube videos about photography and lighting, figuring out how to make Jack's work look its best in pictures. She researched hashtags and posting schedules for social media. She even started a blog on the website, writing about the stories behind Jack's pieces. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Orders started coming in through the website, not just from their small mountain town, but from cities hundreds of miles away. Maya had to create a waiting list because Jack couldn't keep up with demand. "This is crazy," Jack said, looking at the order list Maya had printed out. "6 months ago, I was worried about paying rent. Now I've got more work than I can handle. And these customers are willing to pay full price," Maya added. "No more undercharging for your work." But Maya's transformation of the business went beyond just marketing. She'd been watching Jack work and had noticed inefficiencies in his process that he'd never thought to address. She suggested small changes that saved time without sacrificing quality. She organized his tool storage so he spent less time looking for things. She even convinced him to invest in some better equipment that would make his work easier and faster. "You know what the crazy part is?" Jack said one afternoon as they watched another order come through the website. "I'm actually enjoying the business side now. When you make it organized and logical, it's not scary anymore." Maya felt a pride she'd never experienced before. Not just because she was helping Jack succeed, but because she was discovering abilities she hadn't known she possessed. Every problem the business faced, she found herself coming up with solutions. Every challenge made her more excited rather than more worried. "Maya," Jack said, looking up from a custom order form, "I need to ask you something serious." "What's that?" "Are you sure you want to go to college? Because I think you might already be smarter than most business professors." Maya laughed, but inside she was starting to wonder the same thing. Working with Jack had shown her what she was truly capable of, and it was more than she'd ever imagined possible. Maya was having the best morning of her life when everything fell apart. She'd just finished uploading photos of Jack's latest commission, a beautiful oak desk with secret compartments, when her phone started buzzing with notifications. At first, she thought it was just the usual Instagram likes and comments about Jack's work. Then she saw the first screenshot. Someone had taken a photo of her from the woodworking Instagram account and posted it on their personal page with the caption, "Look who's working for the crazy mountain hermit now. Guess fat girls really will take any job they can get." Maya's stomach dropped as she clicked through to see the full post. It was Brittany Chun, a girl from her high school who had always been popular and mean in that casual way that somehow hurt worse than obvious bullying. The post already had dozens of likes and comments, each one worse than the last. "I heard he pays triple minimum wage because no one else will work for him. She's probably the only one desperate enough to drive up that mountain every day. My dad says that guy is weird. Lives like some kind of caveman." Maya's hands were shaking as she scrolled through the comments. Someone had shared the original post, adding their own commentary about how some people have no standards. Another person had screenshot the woodworking Instagram page and was making jokes about Maya being Jack's social media manager. Like it was the most ridiculous thing they'd ever heard, but it was the video that broke her heart completely. Someone had driven up to the workshop and filmed through the trees, showing Maya and Jack working together in the yard. The video was shaky and far away, but you could clearly see Maya organizing lumber while Jack worked on a piece of furniture. The person filming was laughing and making comments about the odd couple and wondering what kind of weird arrangement they had going on. Maya, you okay in there? Jack's voice came from the workshop, but Maya couldn't answer. She was reading comment after comment, each one making her feel smaller and more ashamed. She's probably just his charity case. I bet she thinks she's some kind of businesswoman now. Someone should tell her that organizing a crazy person's shed doesn't count as a real job. The worst part was seeing names she recognized. People. From school, kids she'd grown up with, even some adults from town. People who had watched her get rejected from job after job were now mocking her for finally finding success. It felt like no matter what she did, she couldn't win. Maya closed her laptop and put her head in her hands. All the confidence she'd built over the past few weeks was crumbling. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was just Jack's charity case. Maybe she'd been fooling herself into thinking she was actually good at this work. Maya? Jack appeared in the office doorway, concern written all over his face. What's wrong? She couldn't even look at him. People from my school found out about my job. They're making fun of it online. Making fun of you too, Jack sat down across from her. What kind of things are they saying? Maya reluctantly showed him the posts on her phone. She watched his expression change as he read through the comments. His jaw tightened, and something dark crossed his face that she hadn't seen before. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I should have been more careful about the social media stuff. I didn't think people would ... Maya, stop. Jack's voice was firm but not angry. This isn't your fault. And it's not about you being careful. This is about people being cruel because they don't understand what they're looking at. But they're saying I'm just your charity case, that you only hired me because you felt sorry for me. Jack was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window. At the mountains. You want to know why I really left the city, Maya? The real reason I ended up here? Maya nodded, wiping her eyes. I was a successful business consultant. Had clients all over the country, made more money than I knew what to do with. I was married to a woman who cared more about appearances than anything else. We had this perfect life on paper. Big house, fancy cars, important friends. Jack's voice grew quieter. Then the economy crashed and I lost some major clients. Not all of them, but enough that we had to tighten our belts. Suddenly, all those important friends stopped returning my calls. My wife started talking about how embarrassing it was that we couldn't afford the country club anymore. Maya listened, seeing a side of Jack she'd never imagined. The final straw was a charity gala, one of those fancy events where rich people pat themselves on the back for writing checks. I overheard my wife talking to her friends, explaining why she was thinking about leaving me. She said I was damaged goods and that she couldn't be seen. With someone who was failing so publicly, Jack laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. The next day, it was all over the society pages. My business problems, my marriage problems, everything. People I'd known for years were suddenly experts on my failures. They had opinions about what I'd done wrong and why I deserved what was happening to me. Maya felt her heart aching for him. That's horrible. The worst part was the comments online. Same kind of stuff you're seeing now. People who didn't know me at all, making judgments about my life and my worth as a person. It felt like the whole world was laughing at me. Jack turned to look at Maya directly. You know what I learned from that experience? The people who mock others for trying, for working, for finding their own path, those people are usually the ones who are most afraid of taking risks themselves. But what if they're right? What if I'm not really good at this? Maya, look around. This office. Look at what you've accomplished in just a few weeks. Jack gestured to the organized files, the functioning computer system, the neatly arranged customer records. Look at the orders that are coming in because of your marketing. Look at the money we're making because you convinced me to charge fair prices. Maya glanced around the office, trying to see it through Jack's eyes instead of through the lens of her classmates' mockery. Those people making fun of you online? How many of them have doubled a business's income in a month? How many of them have taken something broken and fixed it? How many of them have the courage to work with their hands and build something real? Maya felt some of her confidence starting to return, but the hurt was still there. It just makes me feel like I'm back where I started. Like nothing I do will ever be good enough. I know that feeling, Jack said softly. After my divorce, I spent months thinking I was worthless. Thinking maybe all those people were right about me being a failure. You know what changed my mind? What? I built my first piece of furniture up here, just a simple table. But when I finished it, I realized I'd created something beautiful and useful with my own hands. Something that would last long after all. Those cruel comments were forgotten. Jack stood up and looked out at his workshop. Maya, we're not running a charity here. We're running a business, a successful one. If people want to make fun of success because it doesn't look the way they expected, that says something about them, not about us. Maya closed her laptop, feeling a little stronger. So what do? We keep working, we keep building something good. And we remember that the opinions of people who tear others down don't actually matter. That afternoon, Maya turned off all her social media notifications and focused on what she did best, growing Jack's business. But the hurt was still there, a reminder that success didn't automatically protect you from the world's cruelty. She just had to decide whether she was going to let that cruelty define her or whether she was going to prove it wrong. 2 months after the social media incident, Maya had learned to ignore the noise and focus on results. The woodworking Instagram account now had over 3,000 followers, and orders were coming in faster than Jack could fulfill them. But nothing had prepared either of them for the phone call that came on a rainy Tuesday morning in October. Maya was updating the inventory spreadsheet when the office phone rang. She'd gotten used to handling most of the business calls, so she answered with her usual professional greeting. Morrison Woodworks, this is Maya speaking. How can I help you? Hello, I'm calling from Elegant Interiors downtown. We're a high-end furniture showroom, and we've been following your work on social media. I'd like to speak with Mr. Morrison about a potential partnership. Maya's heart started beating faster. Elegant Interiors was the kind of place she'd only seen from the outside, one of those fancy stores with beautiful window displays and prices that made her mom wince when they walked past. Can you hold for just a moment? Maya put the call on hold and rushed to the workshop. Jack, you need to take this call. It's from Elegant Interiors in the city. Jack looked up from the rocking chair he was sanding, confusion on his face. Never heard of them. What do they want? I think they want to sell your furniture. In their store, Jack's face went pale. I don't know, Maya. Those city places, they're not really my thing. Just talk to them, see what they're offering. Maya transferred the call to Jack's workshop phone and tried not to eavesdrop, but it was impossible to miss his side of the conversation. She heard him stumbling over answers, clearly uncomfortable with the business talk. After about 10 minutes, he hung up and came back to the office, looking overwhelmed. They want to meet with you next week? They're talking about featuring my work in their main showroom, getting my pieces in front of serious collectors. Jack sat down heavily. Maya, I don't think I can do this. What do you mean? I mean walking into some fancy store in the city, talking to people who probably went to business school and know all the right words. I'm just a guy who works with wood. Maya had seen this side of Jack before, the part that still carried scars from his failed business life in the city. But she'd also seen what he was capable of when he believed in himself. Jack, you're not just a guy who works with wood. You're an artist who creates things that people treasure for their whole lives. You've built a successful business from nothing. What are you really afraid of? Jack was quiet for a long moment. What if they laugh? At me? What if I walk in there and they realize I'm not as good as they thought? Then we'll leave and keep doing what we're doing. But what if they don't laugh? What if this is exactly the opportunity we've been working toward? Maya pulled up the Elegant Interiors website on her laptop. The showroom was beautiful, filled with the kind of furniture that belonged in magazines. But as she scrolled through their current inventory, she noticed something important. Jack, look at this. Most of their pieces are mass-produced, even the expensive ones. They have beautiful displays, but the actual craftsmanship. Maya clicked through several product photos. It's not even close to what you do. Jack leaned over to look at the screen. That dining set is $3,000? I could build something twice as good for half the materials cost. Exactly. They need what you have, real handcrafted furniture that justifies their prices. And you need what they have, access to customers who understand quality and can afford to pay for it. Maya spent the rest of the day researching everything she could about Elegant Interiors. She found out who owned it, what kind of customers they served, and what their current partnerships looked like. By evening, she had a complete profile of the company and a list of talking points for the meeting. Maya, you've done more research on them than I did on most of my business clients back in the day, Jack said, reading through her notes. Because this matters, this could change everything for us. But Jack was still hesitant. What if I mess up the presentation? What if I say the wrong thing? Maya had been thinking about this all day. What if I come with you? We're partners, right? We can present together. You'd want to do that? Jack, I've been working on this business for months. I know our numbers, our processes, our customers. I might not know as much about woodworking as you do, but I know everything about how we operate. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Maya created a professional presentation showcasing Jack's best work, complete with customer testimonials and production timelines. She calculated pricing that would work for both the showroom's markup and their profit margins. She even convinced Jack to build a small sample piece specifically for the meeting, a jewelry box that demonstrated his attention to detail. I can't believe how organized this all is, Jack said, reviewing the presentation for the 10th time. You've thought of everything. Not everything. I'm still nervous about what to wear to a place like that. Jack laughed. Maya, you could show up in overalls and steel-toed boots, and you'd still be the smartest person in that room. But Maya's anxiety about the meeting went deeper than wardrobe choices. This would be the first time she'd represented the business in such a formal setting. What if the showroom owners didn't take her seriously? What if they wondered why Jack had brought a teenager to a business meeting? What if they think I'm too young? Maya asked her mom over dinner the night before the meeting. Honey, age is just a number. You've already proven you can run a business. Trust yourself. The morning of the meeting, Maya put on her best outfit, a simple black dress her mom had helped her pick out, and tried to calm her nerves. She'd printed multiple copies of their presentation, brought samples of Jack's work, and even created a portfolio of their social media success. Ready for this? Jack asked as they loaded everything into his truck. Maya took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. The drive to the city took an hour, and Maya spent most of it going over there. Talking points one more time. She'd broken down their presentation into sections. Jack would talk about his craftsmanship and process, while she'd handle the business side, marketing, customer base, and production capabilities. Maya, Jack said as they got closer to downtown, I want you to know something. Whatever happens in this meeting, you've already changed my life. 6 months ago, I was barely scraping by. Now I have a thriving business and a partner I trust completely. We did this together, Jack. No, Maya, you did this. I just provided the wood and the tools. You provided the vision. As they pulled up in front of Elegant Interiors, Maya felt a mix of excitement and terror. The showroom was even more impressive in person, with floor-to-ceiling windows displaying furniture that looked like art pieces. This was so far from the small mountain workshop where they'd started. You know what? Maya said, gathering up their presentation materials. I'm not nervous anymore. We belong here. We have something special to offer, and they're lucky we're giving them the chance to work with us. Jack grinned. Now you sound like a real business partner. Together, they walked toward the showroom entrance, ready to prove that a mountain woodworker and a teenage entrepreneur could compete with anyone in the city. Maya's confidence evaporated the moment they walked through the glass doors of Elegant Interiors. The showroom was even more intimidating inside, with polished marble floors that echoed their every footstep and lighting that made everything look like it belonged in a museum. She felt suddenly aware of her simple black dress and the portfolio bag she'd borrowed from her mom. A perfectly dressed receptionist looked up from behind a sleek white desk. "You must be Mr. Morrison and ... She paused, clearly expecting Jack to introduce Maya as his assistant or daughter. "Maya Chun, business partner," Maya said, extending her hand with more confidence than she felt. The receptionist's eyebrows rose slightly, but she maintained her professional smile. "Of course, Mr. Rodriguez and Miss Williams are waiting for you. In the conference room? Right this way." As they followed her through the showroom, Maya tried not to stare at the price tags. A simple coffee table was marked at $1,500. A dining chair cost more than Maya made in a week. But looking closer, she noticed what Jack had pointed out earlier. The furniture was beautiful to display, but the actual construction wasn't anything special. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city, and a long table that could seat 12 people. 2 people were already seated at one end, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit and a woman with perfectly styled gray hair wearing what Maya guessed was a designer dress. "Jack Morrison," the man said, standing to shake hands. Carlos Rodriguez, owner of Elegant Interiors. This is Patricia Williams, our head buyer. And this is Maya Chun, my business partner," Jack said. And Maya felt a surge of gratitude for how naturally he said it. Patricia's smile was polite, but Maya could see the questions in her eyes. How lovely. "And what's your role in the business?" "Maya?" Here it was the moment Maya had been dreading. She could give some vague answer about helping with office work, or she could tell the truth and risk them not taking her seriously. "I handle all business operations, marketing, and customer relations," Maya said clearly. "I've been responsible for our growth strategy and digital presence." Carlos pulled out his phone. "Actually, we've been following your Instagram account. Very impressive work. The photography really showcases the craftsmanship beautifully." Maya felt her first spark of confidence return. "Thank you. I've found that people connect with the stories behind handmade pieces, not just the technical specifications." "Exactly," Patricia agreed. "Our customers want to feel like they're buying something special, something with meaning." Jack had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "That's always been my approach. Every piece I make is built to last generations. I'm not interested in furniture that falls apart in a few years." "Which brings us to why we called," Carlos said, settling back in his chair. "We've been looking for a craftsperson who can provide truly custom, high-quality pieces for our most discerning clients. Your work caught our attention, but frankly, we weren't sure about the business side of your operation." Maya felt her stomach clench. Here came the part where they explained why a mountain workshop couldn't meet their standards. "But after seeing your online presence and talking with Maya today," Patricia continued, "we're quite impressed with your professionalism." Maya blinked, wondering if she'd heard correctly. "We'd like to propose a partnership," Carlos said. "We provide the customer base and showroom space. You provide exclusive pieces for our high-end market." Jack glanced at Maya, and she could see he was overwhelmed. This was her moment to step up. "That sounds interesting," Maya said, pulling out her portfolio. "We'd love to hear more details about what you're envisioning." Over the next hour, Maya found herself leading most of the business discussion. She presented their production capabilities, current order timelines, and pricing structure with a confidence that surprised even her. When Patricia asked about their quality control processes, Maya walked them through the detailed documentation systems she'd created. When Carlos questioned their ability to meet deadlines, Maya showed them the scheduling system that had kept them on track for every order in the past 3 months. "I have to say," Patricia said, reviewing Maya's presentation materials, "this is more organized than some of our established suppliers." But then came the question Maya had been dreading. "Now, I need to ask something delicate," Carlos said, looking directly at Maya. "You're quite young. How do we explain to our customers that their $5,000 custom dining table was managed by a teenager?" The room went silent. Maya felt her face burning, all her old insecurities rushing back. She saw Jack's jaw tighten, ready to defend her, but Maya held up a small hand to stop him. This was her moment to prove herself. "Mr. Rodriguez," Maya said, keeping her voice steady, "when your customers buy a piece from us, they're not paying for my age or Jack's age. They're paying for results. They're paying for furniture that's delivered on time, exactly as ordered, with customer service that makes them feel valued." She pulled out her phone and opened their customer testimonials. This customer said our communication was the best she'd experienced from any furniture company. This one said the piece we delivered exceeded his expectations in every way. This family has already ordered 3 more pieces because they were so happy with the first one. Maya looked Carlos directly in the eyes. "Sir, if age determined business success, then every new company would be run by senior citizens. But innovation usually comes from people who aren't old enough to know what's supposed to be impossible." Patricia leaned forward with interest. "Go on. 6 months ago, Jack was a talented craftsman with a failing business. Today, he has a 6-month waiting list and customers in 5 states. That didn't happen because I'm young. It happened because I understood something about his market that he didn't see yet." Maya opened her laptop and pulled up their analytics. "Our customers aren't buying furniture, they're buying stories. They're buying the dream of owning something handmade, something unique, something that represents their values. I figured out how to tell those stories in ways that connect with people." "And you think you can do that for our customer base?" Carlos asked. "I know I can, because I've already been doing it." Maya clicked through to their social media accounts. 30% of our current customers found us through Instagram. Another 20% came from referrals by existing customers. That's not accident. That's strategy. Jack finally spoke up. "Maya's right. She sees things I never would have thought of. She's not just helping my business. She's teaching me how to run a business." Patricia and Carlos exchanged glances. Maya could tell they were impressed, but she wasn't sure if it was enough. "Maya," Patricia said finally, "can you give us 3 reasons why this partnership would benefit Elegant Interiors?" Maya didn't hesitate. "First, exclusivity. Jack doesn't mass-produce anything. Your customers would be getting pieces that literally no one else in the world owns. Second, authenticity. In a world of fake everything, we offer the real thing. Genuine craftsmanship with a genuine story. Third, reliability. We deliver what we promise when we promise it every single time." Carlos smiled for the first time since they'd sat down. "Those are good reasons." "There's a 4th one too," Maya added. "Growth potential. We're not some big company that's hit their ceiling. We're still expanding, still improving, still finding new ways to serve customers better. A partnership with US is an investment in something that's going to keep getting better." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Patricia started laughing. "Carlos, I think we've found our craftsperson," she said. "And quite possibly the youngest business consultant I've ever met." As they shook hands on the preliminary agreement, Maya felt something she'd never experienced before, the satisfaction of being respected for her abilities rather than judged for her appearance or age. She'd walked into the most intimidating room of her life and proven that she belonged there. 6 months after the Elegant Interiors meeting, Maya stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the collar of her new blazer. Tomorrow was her first day of business classes at the community college, and she still couldn't quite believe how much her life had changed. The scared, desperate girl who had cried on that bench felt like a different person entirely. The partnership with Elegant Interiors had exceeded everyone's expectations. Jack's custom furniture was now featured in the showroom's main window, with a waiting list that stretched nearly 8 months. Maya had hired 2 part-time employees to help with customer service and shipping, and they were looking at expanding the workshop to meet demand, but the real change was in Maya herself. She'd lost some weight from all the hiking and physical work around the mountain workshop, but more importantly, she'd gained something that couldn't be measured on a scale: unshakable confidence in her own worth. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "Don't forget about the interview this afternoon. Channel 7 wants to feature us on their small business spotlight segment." Maya smiled, remembering how terrified Jack had been when the TV station first called. "I don't do interviews," he'd said. "I'll mess it up somehow." We'll do it together. Maya had replied, same as everything else. She grabbed her car keys and headed out to meet her mom for lunch. It had become their tradition. Every Thursday, they'd meet at the diner where her mom worked to catch up on the week's events. There's my famous daughter, her mom said, giving Maya a huge hug. I saw the article about you in the business journal. Teenage entrepreneur transforms mountain workshop. I've shown it to everyone who'll listen. Maya blushed. The article had been flattering, but she still felt weird seeing her name in print. It makes it sound like I did everything myself. Jack's the real talent. Honey, you both bring something special to that business. That's what makes it work. They sat in Maya's mom's favorite booth, the same one where they used to worry about paying rent and dream about college scholarships that seemed impossible. Now Maya was starting college with money she'd earned herself, and her mom had been able to cut back to just one job. I have something to tell you, her mom said, looking mysterious. What's that? Mrs. Patterson from the boutique came in yesterday. You know, the one who wouldn't hire you? Maya's stomach tightened. She'd managed to mostly forget about that humiliating day, but the memory still stung. She asked me about you. Apparently she's been following your Instagram account and saw the TV interviews. She wanted to know if you might be interested in helping her with social media marketing for the boutique. Maya nearly choked on her soda. She wants to hire me now? I told her you were probably too busy, but she seemed pretty desperate. Said her business has been struggling and she needs someone who understands online marketing. Maya thought about it for a moment. The old Maya would have jumped at any opportunity, grateful for any attention. But this Maya had learned to value her time and skills appropriately. I'll think about it, Maya said finally. But if I do help her, it'll be as a consultant, and she pay my full rate. After lunch, Maya drove up the familiar mountain road to the workshop. She'd made this drive hundreds of times now, but she still loved the moment when the trees opened up to reveal Jack's expanding operation. What had once been a single building was now a complex of workshops with a proper showroom and office space. Jack was in the new photography studio Maya had convinced him to build, taking pictures of a rocking chair for a customer who lived across the country. He'd gotten much better at the marketing side of things, though Maya still handled most of the business development. Ready for your close-up? Maya asked, adjusting the lighting setup. As ready as I'll ever be. You sure I look okay for TV? Maya looked at her business partner and friend. Jack had changed too over the past year. The stress lines around his eyes had softened, and he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who knew his worth. He'd even started dating again. A librarian from town who appreciated both his woodworking skills and his dry sense of humor. You look like exactly what you are, Maya said. A master craftsman who's built something amazing. The TV crew arrived an hour later, and Maya was amused to see how professional she'd become at handling media. She coordinated the interview schedule, made sure they had good shots of Jack's work, and briefed everyone on the key messages they wanted to communicate. The interviewer, a woman in her 30s with perfect makeup and a bright smile, seemed surprised by Maya's poise. I have to ask, she said during a break, how does it feel to be so successful at such a young age? Maya had been asked this question many times now, and her answer had evolved. I think success isn't about age, she said. It's about finding something you're good at and working hard to get better at it. I was lucky to find a partner who believed in me before I believed in myself. During the actual interview, Maya and Jack sat side by side in the workshop, surrounded by beautiful furniture and the tools of Jack's trade. They talked about their partnership, their growth, and their plans for the future. Maya was amazed at how natural it felt to be on camera, explaining their business philosophy and sharing their story. What advice would you give to other young people who are struggling to find their place? The interviewer asked Maya. Maya thought about that bench outside the boutique, about the tears and the desperation and the certainty that no one would ever value her. I'd tell them that rejection isn't a reflection of your worth, she said. It's just information about where you don't belong. Keep looking until you find the place where you do belong, because that place exists for everyone. After the TV crew, Left, Maya and Jack sat in their office, reviewing orders and planning the next week's production schedule. It was work Maya genuinely loved, the problem-solving, the customer relationships, the satisfaction of building something that mattered. "Maya," Jack said, looking up from his order list, "I need to ask you something." "What's that? Are you happy?" "Really happy? Sometimes I worry that working with an old guy in the mountains isn't the life you imagined for yourself." Maya looked around the office she'd organized from chaos. At the business they'd built together, at the evidence of their success scattered across every surface. Then she looked at Jack, the man who'd seen her potential when no one else could. "Jack, a year ago I thought my biggest dream was getting hired at a clothing store for minimum wage. Now I'm running a business, going to college, and planning expansions. This isn't the life I imagined. It's so much better. Even with all the challenges? The long hours, the difficult customers, the constant problem solving," Maya laughed. "Especially because of those things, I love solving problems. I love figuring out how to make things work better. I love that every day is different," Jack smiled. "Then I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. How would you feel about opening a second location? Maybe something closer to the city where we could have a bigger showroom and workshop space?" Maya's mind immediately started racing with possibilities. Location options, staffing needs, marketing strategies, financial projections. It was exactly the kind of challenge that made her feel most alive. "I think," she said slowly, "that sounds like the perfect next chapter." As Maya drove home that evening, she passed the bench where she'd first met Jack on impulse. She pulled over and sat down for a few minutes, remembering that desperate, hopeless girl who'd been sure the world had no place for her. That girl had been wrong about a lot of things, but she'd been right about one thing. She'd needed someone to see her worth. She'd just been looking in the wrong places. Sometimes the person who changes your life comes from the most unexpected direction. At the moment when you most need them to appear, Maya got back in her car and headed home, already planning how to turn Jack's expansion idea into reality. After all, she had work to do.